On the way to Panama, we stopped off at a little deserted beach to camp for the night before we were going to go across the border in the morning.
We crossed at the Sixola border, which is up near Boca del Toro, and it was super tiny, and there was no one there, not even any helpers, not even a money changer in sight. But all of the workers were super incompetent, so it still took like 3 hours to get through. We dropped Dan off at Boca del Toro and headed down the twisty mountain roads toward the Pan American so I could catch the flight for my sister's wedding that was coming up in a few days. So it started to get dark and we're up in the mountains and it's cold and a little rainy and there's nowhere to stealth camp, but we saw a happy looking house on the side of the road and pulled up and asked if they knew anywhere we could camp, and they invited us to camp in their yard. So we made ourselves at home under a nice awning, and they invited us to have a simple dinner with them. There were toads too that Andrea was enamored with that were making this awesome
Whoop. Whoop.
sound. Whoop. And they took us toad hunting. Though we couldn't find any of them, but you could hear them all night.
Oh, I crashed my bike. Just crashed on the street. The roads were really twisty, and I was super excited to ride again because my foot had been messed up, so I'd been riding on the back of the bike with Dan, and I turned around to make sure Becky was right behind me, and then I looked forward, and the road was gone. You had to either turn left or right. No stop sign, no warning. In front of me was a barbed wire fence, my favorite, and I slammed on my brakes, totally too late, going way too fast, and laid my bike down, and I thought there was no one around, but immediately, like, an entire family had materialized to witness my epic crash and came over to help, and then Becky caught up, and now everyone knows about it. After that, I rode a little bit more cautiously.
Finally, we got down to the Pan American and started hauling butt toward Panama City when all of a sudden my bike just lost power and I cruised off to the side of the road. I tried to start it, it started up again, and I went for a little while longer, and then the same thing happened, and I realized we were going to have to stop and do some maintenance because that always happens when you're in a hurry. We pushed my bike across the highway into the yard of a little old lady sitting in a hammock, and she invited us to coffee, and we talked to her about our problems, and she suggested we go up the road a little ways where a guy had a compressor that we could use for cleaning my carburetor. We had coffee with her and talked for a while, and then pushed my bike to the mechanic's shop where we found a bunch of men sitting around drinking beer, as mechanics are wont to do. None of them knew anything about motorcycles, but we assured them that we knew what we were doing, we just needed to borrow a compressor, and then they all stood around and watched us work and fed us a lot of beers.
A lot of beer.
The family we camped with gave us a small bowl of rice each in the morning, and that was our breakfast, and we had just been riding all day in an effort to get to Panama City as quickly as possible and hadn't eaten anything else. So by about our third beer, we were pretty trashed trying to take my carburetor apart.
We actually went up camping in their garage area because we weren't done with the bike because naturally it got dark, and we decided, screw it, we're going to eat dinner. Becky cooked some awesome pasta. We set up a tent and we slept, and in the morning we finished working on Becky's bike.
And we had more coffee with Rosa, who told us about how she has 10 children?
Yeah.
And now she has 2 more.
Yep, she's got 12.
She loves us. In the morning, we put in a new spark plug and retuned my carb, and then everything was finally running beautifully. While I was headed back to the States for my sister's wedding, I needed a safe place to stash my bike for the couple weeks I'd be gone. And I put a message out on Horizons Unlimited where a lot of nice people replied that they were snowbirds and they weren't in Panama City right now. But one guy suggested a friend of his who wasn't a rider but was a spear fisherman. Dix met us in a parking lot where this awesomely dressed bag lady was and brought us back to his house where his lovely wife, Michelle, who holds the women's world record for spear fishing. And we hung out there and purged 18 pounds of crap from our bikes for me to bring back. We got everything reorganized on the bikes in time for me to catch a 5 a.m. flight out. I had a great time with my family and friends back in the States. Becky's face. And flew back with 2 new rear tires for us, chain and sprockets for me, and
New gloves.
yeah.
Yeah, new gloves. I looked up tires in Colombia, in Medellin and Bogota, and they were going to be $200 each. So Becky wound up getting them in the States, and they were $100 each. Effectively, we saved $200.
A friend of Dix and Michelle's, Greg, invited us over to his house to watch a movie, and we helped him move in some large artwork that he had bought for his new house. And he invited us to come stay over there because he had a need for a lot of helpers right now with just moving in. So we helped him refinish some things, hang artwork, do odds and ends and different things around the house.
Also, we put together a ping pong table for him, which he immediately kicked both of our asses at.
More? See?
Este 4 de mayo,